What up? It's Jack, aka Just a Cunt here, and this weekend is UFC Fight Night Atlanta. Joaquin Buckley versus Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman. Let's get into the picks and predictions. Starting off with Jamie Lynn Horst versus Vanessa Demopoulos, known for famously being a UFC fighter, aka a former stripper. Truly the best base for MMA, stripping and bitching. Anyway, this fight, it's whatever. Jamie Lynn Horst, she fought, what's her name? Vanessa Hardy in her last fight, I believe, and she looked okay, looked solid, looked like a decent enough women's MMA fighter. Vanessa, I believe, is coming off of the stoppage where she got armbarred after her opponent put her fingers in her gloves, which, to be fair, I do believe she did. But at the same time, I am always going to root against anyone, particularly white women, who just bitch and fucking cry. So there's not too much for me to say. It's this fight. There's a lot of variables that goes into a more shittier women's flyweight fight, but I think it'll probably be all right. Jamie Lynn Horst is probably going to keep it on the feet. She was able to counter grapple when Vanessa Hardy, or when Miss Hardy took her down, and then she was able to reverse it, get back on top, which I think something similar could happen if Vanessa decided to grapple, which I wouldn't be too surprised of. But I see this being kind of a shitty cardio kickboxing class where Jamie Lynn Horst will probably do just a little bit more, land a little bit more solid punches, and win via probably 29-28, 30-27, comfortable win, nothing too spectacular there. Anyway, let's move to a card to a real contender. My boy Philip Rowe. Oh my God, he's just someone, there's certain fighters that I feel like, at least for me, that I just want to like, but they're so boring at fighting. Philip Rowe, who's like, he's the Neil Magny gatekeeper of the top 30. He's someone where people will fight Philip Rowe, and if he beats them, they might be able to maybe break into a fight to eventually maybe get to fight Neil Magny. He's the Neil Magny archetype in terms of he's going to be long, big frame, hold people against the hold people against the fence, etc., etc. And then with solid jiu-jitsu, to be fair, against Angalusa. I know him from the Brian Battle fight particularly, where he didn't look too bad. He's big, he's strong, throws solid strikes, was able to grapple with Brian Battle here and there. Eventually did get finished, but ain't too much to be said against the fucking Butcher. Not everyone's fucking Randy Brown and should beat that motherfucker by unanimous decision. But anyway, I do feel like though that Angalusa I think he's going to be able to do the more damage against Philip Rowe. I do think though if Philip Rowe does get on the ground, he should be able to control a little bit. I don't necessarily think he's going to submit him. I can see him being able to cause some scrambles, maybe get him down, and kind of a boring hold against the fence. Anga, throwing big strikes, big meaty hooks around the guard, trying to get some decent strike Philip Rowe, just landing the jab. Very, very mid-MA, very mid-martial arts right here. This classic mid-martial arts right here. I think it'll be all right. But going up, before we get to some real fight, we got one more kind of ass fight. Cody Durden, coming off a couple losses, lost to Joshua Van. Ain't nothing to be sad about, nothing to cry about there, all right? Join the club, all right? Only one man can say they beat him, but that, I believe he lost to Bruno Silva as well. He's like a solid. The thing that I've noticed with flyweights too is that flyweights, they tend to be very good on the top level in terms of the top 5, like Pantoja, Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval, etc., etc. And then they kind of fall off a fucking cliff and everyone kind of blends together. Cody Durden, I feel like falls into this. He is a scrappy, solid grappling, susceptible to getting KO'd, susceptible to getting hit. Not the most durable guy, but is scrappy, is good. Against Jose Ochoa, who is coming out of Shooter Box, I believe, from Brazil. And good solid Muay Thai fighter. I believe this is a UFC debut. Or no, it's not UFC debut. He had a fight before this. This I think when it's second UFC fight. He's very solid Muay Thai, has some leg, particularly the leg kicks, he does good, very wild fighter, does like to brawl a little bit. This fight, I am leaning towards Jose just because I feel like momentum-wise, he has an advantage in that way. I wouldn't be surprised if Cody Durden, he is a ranked flyweight. If he's able to use some veteran experience, make it dirty, take it to the ground, make it sloppy, and, edge out a closer decision. But I'm going to rely on the up-and-comer Jose. Good gym behind him, solid striking. I think he can do enough to, on the feet at least, win a close competitive decision, probably 29-28, something along those lines. Moving up the card, now we got a real fight. Malcolm Wellmaker versus Chris Moutinho. Oh my God, they brought back a legend. You love to see it. Infamously fought Sean O'Malley in a surprisingly decent performance in terms of he didn't get flatlined like Aljamain Sterling, at least. You'd at least say that. And then he got knocked out by, I believe, Chris Gutierrez standing TKO'd him against the fucking fence in like the first round. Yeah, it's a pretty simple fight. I got Malcolm Wellmaker. He's, people like to make fun of Cameron Simon. Cameron Simon is very solid. He's very well-rounded, good grappling, very solid striking. I don't think Cameron Simon is a pushover. Not to say he's a world beater, but I don't think he's someone that anyone could just walk in and beat. Like, I'd pick Cameron Simon to beat Chris Moutinho. I think Malcolm Wellmaker is going to be able to counter Chris. Chris is going to come forward, high guard, try to teep at him, try to just overwhelm, try to just marauder him, just try to be fucking discount Benoit Saint-Denis with a somehow even shittier chin. I think Malcolm Wellmaker is going to check hook this cunt into the next fucking existence. And yeah, he can get some Michael Jackson tickets there. Pretty simple. Malcolm Wellmaker. I'm going to go second round TKO in a solid performance where maybe he gets touched up here and there, but overall is able to pull off the win in a solid performance. Michael Chiesa versus Court McGee. It looks like the Michael Chiesa title run is still going on, boys. I believe his last one is still Tony Ferguson. I don't think he's had a fight in the meantime in a, it is hard to judge Tony Ferguson at this point in his career, but Michael Chiesa kind of just bullied him, just took him down, was bigger than him, rear naked choked him, nothing too complex, nothing too crazy. And I feel like he's going to be able to comfortably outstrike Court McGee. I don't see him trying to grapple too much with Court. I feel like that Court, especially at this point in his career, is very stiff. He's older. His chin's not the best. I don't think Michael Chiesa is going to knock him out or anything, but I think Court's not going to be able to just bully Chiesa, or in a way that's kind of where a lot of guys are able to do, like Kevin Holland. Luque kind of, I wouldn't say really bullied him, but a lot of the guys that beat Chiesa do so by taking advantage that Chiesa doesn't really have too much offensive threat on the feet, particularly in the boxing. And Michael Chiesa gave a great fight to Sean Brady. He broke his nose. Sean Brady couldn't bully him. I don't think Court McGee, if Sean Brady can't bully you on the ground, I don't see Court fucking McGee doing it. Yeah, I think Michael Chiesa's going to win. I can see him rocking Court McGee and maybe latching up a submission, but I'm going to say by decision, 30-27, comfortable. Maybe hurts him here and there, nothing too crazy. I'm going to say Michael Chiesa continues the win streak. Moving up to the headliner of the preliminary card, Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Bellato. I'm sick of this motherfucking called Paul Craig, bro. I'm sick of this motherfucking Paul Craig. It doesn't matter what I pick here. It doesn't matter. Picking Paul Craig, it's the Michael Johnson of light heavyweight. It's the submits Big Ink in one round and then gets fucking flatlined out cold by fucking... makes me actually believe in a fucking Brendan Allen. All right, makes me say Brendan Allen's actually a elite middleweight. All right, so I'm not taking a bait. I'm not taking a rage bait. I'm taking Rodolfo Bellato. I know he got KO'd by a couple different guys against an Asvam Zakana victim, flatlined this guy. But there's nothing to be sad about. Great Wall of China. It's like, okay, beat Anthony Smith. All right, let's not act like Rodolfo Bellato is getting KO'd by bums. All right. But it is possible that Paul Craig can, obviously submit him. I see Rodolfo Bellato putting Paul Craig against the fence. Paul Craig trying to land the body kick, being kind of slow, especially for the first round. But I can see Rodolfo Bellato is probably going to try and hold Paul Craig against the fence, where I don't see Paul Craig being able to latch up submissions. Paul Craig might try to pull guard, but I see this being kind of a boring kickboxing fight where Rodolfo is going forward, landing decent shots on the fence. Maybe not knocking out Paul Craig, but like rocking him a little bit, getting the stumble, and then winning a probably 29-28 close decision. Maybe Rodolfo's able to get the TKO. The only problem is that Rodolfo is probably dumb enough to take down Paul Craig, and as soon as that happens, I do think Paul Craig can make things happen. I think he can reverse Rodolfo, land good ground and pound, as we saw in his fight against Andre Muniz. He was able to land very good ground and pound. I do feel like he's definitely able to implement that game, but unfortunately, I don't see him having a real way to take down Rodolfo Bellato, or at least enough for me to pick him, to comfortably pick him. So I'm gonna go with Rodolfo Bellato by kind of deflating decision, maybe a later TKO. Moving on to the main card, Alonzo Menifield versus Umar Sy. Alonzo Menifield is mentally fucking retarded. I'm gonna go with Umar Sy. Solid grappling, very good ground and pound. I think Alonzo Menifield is gonna come in like a fucking bull, gonna try and just throw big bombs at Umar. I don't see it really working out too well. I think Umar is gonna be able to outstrike Alonzo Menifield, eventually be able to grapple, implement that, land very good ground and pound. I think wherever the fight goes, Umar Sy is gonna be able to do solid. Alonzo Menifield, you know, always has that power. It's light heavyweights, kind of the thing where he can get hit. Umar Sy isn't exactly a demon on the feet, I would say. He's very solid, but he's not anything too crazy. But he does have great elbows, great ground and pound, great overall skill set. He is French. Do with that what you will. He may, unfortunately, not be able to take as much damage as others, but at the end of the day, I think with a mixture of his submission, his flexibility, his overall dynamic, he's a fucking athlete. Yeah, he's a fucking athlete. All right, he's big, he's strong. I think he'll be able to muscle around Alonzo. I think he'll be able to land devastating ground and pound. I'm gonna go with Umar Sy via, I'm gonna say second round TKO due to ground and pound. Maybe able to submit him, but I'm gonna say due to ground and pound, especially because Alonzo Menifield doesn't have the best chin. I'm gonna go with Umar Sy. Moving up, Mansur Abdul Malik versus Cody Brundage. As much as I want to pick Cody Brundage, I have no fucking idea how he beats Mansur. Mansur seems to have a pretty fucking wild chin, ate a devastating spinning elbow and kind of walked it off, just kind of stumbled a little bit. Able to then TKO his opponent later in that fight. Cody Brundage, solid grappling, has some pop, has some overhand, knocked out Trey Shongor, but he's very, very mid martial arts. And Mansur Abdul Malik, to me, has something to him. He is very dynamic on the feet. He's not super crazy, but he almost holds his hands out like Aljo in a way, and he's, you know, powerful, lands solid strikes. I think he's just going to be able to bully Brundage on the feet. Maybe Cody can get a takedown here and there, but I'm going to go with Mansur Abdul Malik via decision. Maybe late round TKO, but I'm going to say decision. Moving up to the real fights. The real fights are the real fights, all right? This is what makes this card actually pretty solid. Cody No Love Garbrandt versus Hanny Marcelos. The fact this man's fighting in June after what he did to Payne Talbot is good to see. Cody Garbrandt, not too much I need to say. Most people know him. Great takedown defense, boxing. You know, has improved in terms of his being safe on the feet. You know, Figueiredo couldn't really catch him. He's implemented calf kicks too, some very good low kicks, bounce around on the outside, very good movement versus Henny Barcelos, who is similar to Jose Aldo. Kind of, it seemed like he was kind of going on downhill. You know, he got KO'd by Umar, you know, wasn't really looking too good. He kind of has some issues with boxing defense. He could get caught here and there, doesn't have crazy durability. But he's overall just well rounded. He's very good, very solid technical striker. He would probably be top 5 at heavyweight if he wasn't a manlet. So, hot take here, even though Henny Barcelos is coming off one of his best performances, was what he did to Payne Talbot, I don't see him doing that to Cody Garbrandt. I'm actually going to go with Cody Garbrandt. Not by KO, even if I do. There's the part of me that sticks with Cody Garbrandt and wants to say by KO, but I'm going to go Cody Garbrandt by obnoxiously boring decision. I think we're going to get a Cody Garbrandt classic where he's going to bounce around the cage, he's going to do his little stutter step, he's going to do some emotes, he's going to aura max, he's going to run around, He's gonna, blitz forward, land some hooks, get out, left calf kicks. I think Kenny Barcel's gonna be chasing him a lot. He's gonna be winging on punches. I think Cody Garbrandt, even if his boxing defense isn't the greatest, I still think he has good head movement for moving around the outside, if that makes sense in terms of back and forth. So I think he could move out the way, a big winning punch from Renan Barcelos. I think Barcelos may try to grapple more just because he found a lot of success with it, but I don't see Cody really have too many troubles. He can get rear naked choke. Even if Cody's very explosive and can defend a lot of grappling, he can still get choked out. And there is something there where I do think if any Barcelos is to take down Cody Garbrandt, he probably can hold on to him for that moment of time, but I'm going to trust Cody. I'm going to think Cody's, he's going to pull this one out the fire. Got the braids, grew out the hair. I think we're going to see Cody Garbrandt win by boring ass 29-28, boring fucking decision. Moving up to Edmen Shahbazyan versus Andre Petroski, who infamously is the only fighter to get KO'd with a fucking hip check. He got hip feinted into the shadow realm. I'm going with Edmen Shahbazyan. I will never pick Andre Petroski after he literally KO'd himself running into a man's hips. And yeah, there's not too much to say. Andre Petroski is a solid grappler, but he doesn't have crazy control. He has good grappling. He can take people down. He can do some work there. But on the feet, he seems quite lost. And I think even if Edmen Shahbazyan, does have some problems in terms of his cardio and everything, I don't think it's going to be enough that Andre, who's not exactly a cardio demon, is going to be able to take advantage of. I'm going to say Edmen Shahbazyan is going to have a great performance, have a little bit of a highlight. I think he's gonna win by first round TKO. I'm gonna say shots to the body. I think he's going to land great body kicks and knee. Kind of show what a lot of people were looking forward to. Edmen when he was coming up on his ride before he took a couple losses. I'm gonna say Edmen Shahbazyan via first round TKO to the body. I'm gonna say a knee. Let's say a knee, some body kicks. I'm gonna go with Edmen. Moving on to Sug Rose Namajunas. God, I remember when Rose Namajunas was the fucking dude, bro. Was the shit. When he was the man on the block, bro. When Mixed Molly Wop, where he dropped that documentary before we figured out that Pat Barry's a pedophile, everyone loved Rose Namajunas. And it's not even that I think people dislike her now. I just think she's like I forget that she's fought like 4 times in the last couple of years. Like, I forget that she's fought like a lot. She's fought like Tracy Cortez. She's fought Manon Fiora. She's fought like a decent bit the last couple of years. She hasn't been super inactive. And I think she's going to have a great performance against Miranda Maverick. I think even though Rose Namajunas can be quite disappointing against people like Manon Fiora, where I feel like she didn't really seem like the same world beater, she didn't break her hand in that fight. But I do think someone about on the level of Miranda Maverick, especially when Rose is at flyweight, she's not going to be fighting a big flyweight either. I do think that she's going to be backing down in her division. She's not going to have that extra 10 pounds of weight where I didn't feel like it was good weight. I felt like it was just extra fat. I do think she's going to be able to move around the outside, have a classic Rose Namajunas in and out, bouncing around, land good jabs, land head kicks, leg kicks, bully Miranda. I think Miranda is tough. She's very strong. She's got some fucking testosterone in her, right? She's been taking some TRT. She's been watching a little bit too much Joe Rogan. But I just don't think she's going to have the movement. And I think even on the ground, she may be able to bully Rose if she's able to hold her, but I don't see her doing more than holding her against the fence for a second. I think Rose is going to be able to outstrike her, outbox her, just have a great classic Rose Namajunas performance. But I'm going to say by decision, I think Miranda is going to be pretty tough. And I think Rose is going to take her to a dominant 30-27. Great decision. And I think a lot of people are going to be posting about Rose after this, where I see her winning the first 2 rounds comfortably, maybe even taking down Miranda at the end and having just a very good, heartwarming win where, as we'll see later, hopefully Kamaru Usman can, they can celebrate like back in the day when Usman knocked out Masvidal, back when it was Usman, Rose, Justin all on the same card. Back in those days, and we're going to get some flashbacks of that. Moving on to the main event. Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. Now this is a fucking main event. Now I feel this is a very difficult fight to predict. I feel that now if this was Kamaru Usman, 1 or 2 years ago, where you can get a better idea as to how he is in terms of aging, coming off some losses. His knees have always been bad. He's always been kind of stiff. He's never been like this super loose he's not like an Arman Tsarukyan where he's very flexible, and, you know, he's always seemed kind of, you know, not the most athletic naturally, or at least in tandem with his knee. Never been someone that seems like can bounce around a lot. Going against someone who is a power puncher that's going to get into his face, that's going to force him to have to move around, that's going to have to, you know, box with Joaquin Buckley, is going to press the issue a little bit. I'd be much more comfortable picking Usman if this was even the Hamza fight. No, even then, it feels like Kamaru Usman pre-head kick. Maybe it was the elevation, maybe it was almost the factor, maybe Edwards just got better after that, but it felt like after that, Usman doesn't have the same, he has the same skills, don't get me wrong. He's still very good, very solid, still a dog, but he doesn't have the same oomph. He doesn't have the same, when you look at that Burns fight, that really made me realize just how much Usman was before able to pull counter, able to move around, able to just control the space more, able to be more comfortable in the boxing, not just have to be in the pocket and swing hooks like he did with Hamzat. It makes me remember that he could jab, you know, jab, duck, overhand, land twos, pull counters, you know, really able to do it. Whereas it seems like he's able to do that as much now, and I think those skills would be so useful against Joaquin Buckley. I think if you take Gilbert Burns, Kamaru Usman, that is one of the best fighters to beat Buckley in terms of someone that has straight shots, something that Buckley has struggled with, who got knocked out by Chris Curtis, someone who is in the fire, who has definitely gotten defensively better. It feels like, though, that he focuses more so on shots coming from the outside in terms of like head kicks. He's been knocked out with some head kicks, you know, with hooks. You know, the way he guards himself, he does almost like a windshield guard. He kind of pulls his arm all the way up and blocks up the side, where he doesn't parry as much. He doesn't do as much work on the inside in terms of defending against straight shots as much. He kind of more so relies on his head movement, where I do think Usman, with that boxing ability, with that able to bounce, with that lockdown, takedown defense, would really be able to, I say, work Joaquin Buckley. But just what Usman are we to get? I mean, at the end of the day, he did get, even in that fight, he did get dropped by Burns. He did get hit against Edwards both times. You know, after he got head kicked the second time, third time, he got rocked with a knee. But he doesn't feel fragile, man. That's what I'm like. Buckley hits hard, but like look at Buckley when he fought Colby. He was landing bombs on Colby, but Colby wasn't really like rocked in the sense of like, now what, like Usman almost flatlined Colby. Like when Usman was able to land on Colby, he was able to drop him, you know, hurt him really bad, as opposed to Buckley, where he's able to do a lot of damage, a lot of visual damage. It doesn't feel like Buckley, whether it be due to him holding back because he wants to have the cardio, whether it not being his style, you know, the hooks. Sometimes it feels like hooks, they don't have the same oomph, but you can't punch through someone as easily, at least at the top level that Usman has. And when I think of Buckley, obviously he knocked out Wonder Boy, but like it feels like he's not the same finisher. When I think of Buckley, what makes him so dangerous is his cardio, his counter wrestling. He can defend takedowns, and him hitting hard enough to always be a threat, to bounce around, you know, that Mike Tyson style bounce around, move, head kick, you know, throw a head kick here and there. And I think Buckley, this is still a hard stylistic matchup because he's not going to be able to mix up the grappling as much. I think Usman should be able to shirk off the grappling, and he's fighting someone that's going to hit him on the center line, that's going to attack him in a way that he still, to me, hasn't fully figured out in terms of, you know, Kevin Holland knocked him out with the straight shots, Chris Curtis knocked him out with the straight shots, even Colby was able to land some stuff here and there. Nothing too devastating, but we're talking about Kamaru Usman, who while it does look stiff, he's still a beast, he's still a tank, he's still strong, he still has that cardio, he still has that pace. And I think while Joaquin Buckley definitely has great cardio and can, you know, put a pace on people, it's one thing to put a pace on, you know, Andre Fialho, you know, put a pace on other guys, where Kamaru's going to have something that Colby doesn't, and that's presence in the cage in terms of be able to back down Buckley, where I think it's going to be a dog fight. I think it's going to be a great fight where, damn, Kamaru Usman's 38? Fuck, bro. Shit. Where Kamaru Usman and Buckley are going to come in the center. I think Buckley's going to press the issue. I think Kamaru's going to try and pull counter. I'm going to try and land that jab. And I think if he's able to get that jab off, he's going to build into the fight way more, and I think he would be able to TKO Buckley. The only problem that I'm having is that two things. Buckley does like his oblique kicks, and Usman has terrible knees. Buckley does Usman doesn't use kicks as much. He will sometimes use like a tie kick to the body. He'll sometimes throw a head kick, but it's not a noticeable part of his game. And I do think that Buckley is going to not have to worry about that as much. Like even Colby, when he was landing some body kicks and stuff, he was doing quite good. Where I feel as opposed to Usman, who just doesn't have that same dynamicism, you know, as we were talking about before, it's athleticism, he doesn't really have it as much. I think there is some money on Joaquin Buckley by doctor stoppage just because of that knee. I could actually see him blowing out Usman's knee and that being a unfortunate end to it. But obviously I'm not going to predict, it's kind of boring. I think if we get Usman, if it's a prime Usman, I'm picking Usman, no problem. It's just whether or not it's a prime Usman. He's 38, he's stiff. Even in his prime, he's gotten rocked by, hooks, Buckley's. I'm gonna go with Joaquin Buckley. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Joaquin Buckley. Nope, fuck it. I'm believing him. I'm gonna believe in the old dog. I'm gonna say fuck it. I'm a Kamaru Usman fan. I'm gonna say Usman via second round TKO. I think Buckley's gonna come out, overwhelm Usman. Usman's gonna look a little uncomfortable. He may even get rocked a little bit, stumble around the cage. I think he's gonna lag. He's gonna do the Usman smile. Usman, he gives his little smile at him, his little nod. I think Usman's gonna do that, but I think Usman's gonna land some jabs. I think it's gonna be one of those things where Buckley's winning until Usman starts landing hard shots, and you're gonna see a difference in power, in size, and you're gonna see Usman that Buckley, there's a lot of times where he's winning fights and then he gets caught and then he puts himself in the fire too much. He's in and out too much and he starts getting too aggressive and then he gets caught. He gets hurt. Chris Curtis, he was winning that fight. He was doing really good against Chris Curtis until he got caught with that shot. I think Usman, I'm going to trust him with that veteran experience. I think his chin's still good. I think unless his knee blows out, he's going to be a difficult person to finish. I think he's going to be able to dogfight with Buckley. He does really good in those pockets exchanges. And I don't think Buckley's going to be implementing grappling. I saw some videos of Kamaru Usman training. He's still training hard, training grappling, submitting Gaethje easy, which isn't saying too fucking much. But at the end of the day, Kamaru Usman, he's still got it. I'm going to say Kamaru Usman, yeah. Second round TKO, maybe even KO. I'm going to say TKO from I'm gonna say a jab rocks him. He's able to then drop Buckley and then do some ground and pound. I'm gonna say Kamaru Usman via second round TKO. Anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Some of those things I like to talk about. Joshua Van is also, fighting Brandon Royval on short notice. I was kind of nervous on that fight because Brandon Royval has some fucking aura. He feels like the new Max Holloway, Robert Whittaker, Colby Covington second place guy. But I actually think Joshua Van is going to be able to do really good in that fight. He has the cardio to compete with Brandon Royval, which is something that I think where I was able to overwhelm a lot of opponents. I think Tatsuya Taira actually did some decent work on the feet in moments where I feel like Joshua Van is going to be able to do that but better. I think even looking at that Brandon Moreno fight, even if Moreno was just spamming fucking overhands, I think that Joshua Van is going to be able to take advantage more. I'll probably go more in depth later as we get closer to that, because, when we get closer to that card, but Joshua Van's just that fucking dude. He's just the best prospect in the fucking division. Keep an eye out for him. Anyway, I don't want to waste y'all time too much. I hope you have a good night. Let me know what you guys are thinking, how you guys are like how the videos look, how you like the thumbnails, all that stuff, the editing. Anyway, it's Jack, just a cunt. Hope you all have a good night. Have a good one.